achieve American greatness. And we are just getting.
Bates here. We're interrupting your regularly scheduled programming to take you to Auburn Hills, Michigan, where Vice President JD Vance is speaking in a manufacturing plant. Here he is.
The average American has actually increased their take-home pay by about $1,400. Now, that's a good thing. That $1,400 is money in your pocket. But what it also means is that a lot of our families are still struggling because of that terrible hole that Joe Biden and the Democrats put us in. And for so many of us, the question in November is going to be very simply, do we support the people who made us hundreds and hundreds of dollars richer, or do we support the people who made us hundreds and hundreds of dollars poorer? Let's support the people who made us richer, more prosperous, and more secure, and that's the congressional leadership in Washington, D.C. Because here's the thing, I landed, I don't even remember which airport we landed in, but it was about a 20-minute drive from there to here. And I was looking around and I was thinking to myself, again, this is why, even though I'm an Ohio State guy, I love this state, it reminded me so much of my hometown. You've got some of these beautiful old homes that I saw. Places that are harken back to an era of American greatness when we built these beautiful buildings. And some of them looked amazing, and some of them, let's be honest, looked like they were struggling. I drove through some areas that were clearly struggling. I realized that America sold the highest number of my entire life. Everybody, whether it was on Wall Street or a foreign company or foreign competitor, we were going to sell out the American dream of the people right in this room so that somebody could make a quick buck, or so that some foreign competitor or some foreign country could get rich off of the infrastructure that the United States of America had built over 250 proud years. And what I realized driving through this area is that the American Renaissance, ladies and gentlemen, $1,200 richer in 14 months is a lot, but there is so much more that we can do together. There is so much more to be built, so much more to be reclaimed, so much more to be made anew in the United States of America. But it's not going to happen by going back to the failed policies of Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. It's going to be by doubling down on the policies of Donald J. Trump and the people who love this country. In the same way that the American dream wasn't sold out in 1 year, it's going to take us longer to rebuild it. And what is really at stake in this election in November is fundamentally, we've done so much good, and we've built so much, and we've been able to do a lot for the American people, but the Democrats threatened to take us straight back to where we were just a few short years ago. And we all know the economic statistics. We all know the fact that we felt it in our pockets, that everything from groceries to our home electricity bill was going up at a level that it hadn't gone up in 40 years under Joe Biden. But it's not just that. Because the American dream, my friends, as you all know, it's not just about going out and being able to buy something, as important as that is. It's not just about the economics, the dollars and cents, though of course we demand that our citizens become more prosperous. It's also about peace and security. It's about being safe in your own home. It's about what I think of as a classic American idea that just because you grew up in a poor family like mine doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to walk down the street in safety and security in your own country. And that is what Joe Biden and his leadership and Nancy Pelosi and all these clowns in Washington, that is the thing that they tried to take away the most from us. Where do you think the fentanyl that flooded our streets and killed hundreds of thousands of our citizens came from? It came from Joe Biden's wide open border. Where do you think the highest crime rates, the highest murder rates came from during that administration? They came from the fact that we went to war on the police rather than on the criminals who committed crimes. Where do you think the fact that we had elevated murder rates, not just in our big cities, but in our small towns, because we let in hundreds of thousands of violent criminals into the United States of America? So when I talk about the American dream, I mean, number one, that I want you to have a good job that pays you a good wage, that allows you to put food on the table, but also take a couple of nice vacations every year. But what I also mean is that we need to get the people who are making our cities less safe the hell out of our country and focus on American citizens first. Because as much as we have achieved and as much as I'm proud of what we've done over the last 14 months, the Democrats threatened to take us right back to where we were the last time that they had control of the government. Think about it. Think about the State of the Union address. It feels like forever ago. I think it wasn't even a month ago. And as you all know, I have a very unique perspective on the State of the Union address, right? I'm the one person, the president's obviously talking, and I guess me and Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, are the two people who just get to see the Congress. We don't have anything to say. You stand up and sit down probably 150 times. But, it gave me a perspective on what's going on in our country. I should say what's going on in our capital more than what's going on in our country, because I realized that there is such cowardice in Washington, D.C., in the political leadership in Washington, D.C. I've never seen anything like it. So you may remember this line. If you don't, I'll repeat it for you. But the president said something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he said something like, if you believe that if you believe that the government ought to put American citizens first rather than illegal aliens, stand up and cheer. Okay? And every Republican and like 3 or 4 Democrats stood up and cheered. But what was funny is not just that the Democrats were sitting on their hands, it's that they were all looking around. Like, what do we do here? And what kind of a person is elected to serve in congressional leadership and has to look around at their peers rather than stand up and clap for the basic idea that the American government should be fighting for you, not people who are fraudulently in our country? What kind of a person can't stand and clap for a 6-year-old girl who was hugging her father because she was, a little nervous? She was in the public spotlight, but we were celebrating this 6-year-old girl because she had survived a criminal attack from an illegal alien who shouldn't be in this country. And the Democrats couldn't stand and cheer at that. And the thing that I took away from that is much more than any political issue, any policy issue. I can stand up here and proudly say that we shut the border, we lowered your taxes, and we have the lowest murder rate on history. And that is something I'm very proud of. But you know what I'm more proud of? That I am part of a political movement that is fighting for each and every single person in this room. Doesn't mean you're always going to agree with us. Doesn't mean you're going to agree with everything that congressional Republicans do in Washington, D.C. But what I do know is that they wake up and they think, how can we best serve the people of this community and the people of the United States of America? And that is the biggest dividing line, and it breaks my heart to say it. The biggest dividing line in our politics is not tax policy or regulatory policy or even immigration, as much as you and I care about all these things. The biggest dividing line in our country is that we have in Washington, D.C., one political movement that is dedicated to fraud, to illegal immigration, and to making sure that this country is safe for them rather than safe for us. I really would. I would love to live in a country where when the President of the United States says it is the duty of the American government to look after American citizens first, for everybody, Democrat and Republican, to stand up and cheer. But my simple request is that until we get to that moment, until the Democrats can cheer for the idea that the government fights for you, until the Democrats can cheer for the fact that the government should be lowering your taxes, until the Democrats stand and cheer for the fact that the border ought to be closed and we ought to get the cartels out of our country, do not send those crazy people or any more of them to Washington, D.C. Support the people who fight for you, and that is Donald J. Trump and the entire leadership of this party. Okay, so I've said everything, or at least most of what I want to say here, but I want to just give I want to give one note of shout out to our fellow Americans in this community who have suffered a little bit in the last couple of weeks, and then I'll take some questions from the reporters. So I believe we're only about half an hour or so away from the facility Temple Israel, the synagogue that was attacked by a terrorist not even a week ago, I believe. And I think that all of us ought to keep these folks in our prayers, because when something happens to any member of our American family, and this particular incident happened to Jewish members of our American family, it is something that all of us have to stand up and say, it's disgusting, it's unacceptable, and we're not going to tolerate the United States of America. So I hope all the folks from Temple Israel know that we're praying for them, we're thinking about them, from the President of the United States, the Vice President, and everybody else. And we're proud of how you've handled this particular situation, because it is tough. In particular, there was a police veteran who was a security guard by the name of Danny Phillips. And Danny Phillips was one of the heroes that day. He was injured protecting the people in that community. And I hope all of us will give a big round of applause and a prayer to Danny Phillips. He's the very best of this country. And sometimes you see the very best on our worst days. So with that, I will say thank you all for having me. The fun is not over yet. We'll take a few questions from the reporters, but if we could, what I'd like to do is start out with the local reporters first, and then if we have time, we'll get to the national reporters after that. Okay, go ahead, guys.
Hi, Mr. Vice President. Brett Cass with WXYZ here in Detroit. Thank you for taking questions. We're seeing gas prices here climbing at home, in particular here in Metro Detroit, with what's going on with Iran and the impacts in the Strait of Hormuz. What is the administration doing to help keep gas prices down, and where do you see gas prices going here in the near future?
Well, the President of the United States has been crystal clear about this. Look, gas prices are up, and we know they're up, and we know that people are hurting because of it, and we're doing everything that we can to ensure that they stay lower. I will say, the President said this, and I certainly agree with it. This is a temporary blip. Okay, what happened under the Biden administration is that gas prices were high for 4 years. Gas prices are higher right now, and frankly, they're not even as high as they were during certain parts of the Biden administration because of what's going on in the Middle East. It's not going to last forever. We're going to take care of business. We're going to come back home, and when that happens, you're going to see energy prices come back down to reality. But in the meantime, we got a problem. We know that we have a problem. We're doing everything that we can to address it. A couple of steps that we've taken just in the last couple of weeks is that we actually worked with a lot of our allies all over the world who are suffering from this, frankly, more than we are, because unlike the United States, where we've pursued an energy dominance agenda, you've got a lot of people all over the world who have focused on a lot of green energy scams, and they're hurting a lot more than we are. So as much as we got to focus on getting these gas prices down, the reality is overseas they're feeling it far worse than we did, because we've taken the steps to protect our energy economy. So for example, what we did working with these allies, that we released hundreds of millions of barrels out of all these petroleum reserves so that we could put some downward pressure on prices. We're working on a number of things. In fact, a couple of things that I think will be announced in just the next 24 to 48 hours. I don't want to get ahead of the president on that, but we recognize this is an issue. We are fighting against it, and we promise that when this conflict draws to a close, when this operation draws to a close, we're going to see those energy prices come back down to reality, because that's what the president promised to do. He delivered an energy dominant agenda. It's made us much more secure in the face of these things. But yeah, we got a rough road ahead of us for the next few weeks, but it's temporary. Next question.
Hi, Remington Hernandez, News Channel 3 in Kalamazoo. The Gordie Howe Bridge is not too far from here. President Trump has made some comments about trade with Canada. For manufacturers here in Michigan, that bridge will be a lifeline to get products over the border. Do you think that the president has taken the right steps with Canada in regards to the bridge, and do you think that it should open on time?
Well, the president's attitude to Canada is they are an important ally. They're an important trading partner, especially for folks in this region of our country. But Canada has taken advantage of the United States of America for far too long. And they've taken advantage of the United States in a couple of different ways. Number one, they have allowed us to subsidize their entire military, their entire security. Canada pays virtually nothing, at least until a couple of years ago, for their own security, which means we had to foot the bill for that security. Is that fair to you and your kids that you have to pay for the military of a foreign country? No. So the President of the United States said to the Canadians, number one, you guys got to take your own security more seriously. You're always going to be an ally, but why don't you have a little bit more self-sufficiency? And I think that makes complete and total sense. The second thing the President said is, if we're going to be true friends, you have to treat our workers as fairly as we've treated Canadian workers for 40 years. Again, we have let so many people over the entire time that I've been alive take advantage of the United States of America. The President said, if you're going to apply a tariff to our goods, we're going to start applying a tariff to your goods too. It's basic fairness. And that's what we've done, and our hope with Canada, and I think we'll get there eventually, is we're going to get to a point where Canada treats our workers fairly, we treat their workers fairly, and they're going to be a true ally and a true friend, not somebody who's taken advantage of us, which is what they've done for most of my life. Thank you. Next question.
Will Jones from Local 4. With the ongoing war with Iran and the recent attack that you just mentioned on a synagogue not too far from here, what is being done to keep Americans safe here at home?
Yeah, a very good question. I believe that Tulsi Gabbard and John Ratcliffe are actually testifying before Congress right now to talk about some of these issues. So let me just say that it is an obsessive focus of the entire U.S. government to understand where the threats are, where people might attack innocent Americans, and what we can do to address it, to get ahead of it, and if, God forbid, something does happen, to respond to it as quickly as possible. And there's a whole host of things that happen. Look, we're monitoring, some classified stuff, some phone calls, things like that, so that we can try to figure out when foreign actors want to come into our country to commit acts of terrorism in the United States of America. We've got the FBI searching for people who have come in, usually illegally, to the United States of America, who might wish the United States ill will. We're continuing to get illegal criminals out of our country, because those are very often the people who commit acts of violence against the United States of America, against our people. So there's a lot that we're working on. You knock on wood, I think that we've had a very good track record with security under the Trump administration. We've got murder rates as low as they've ever been. But the only way to stay ahead of this stuff is to keep vigilant about it. The unfortunate reality is there are always bad people out there. Again, very many of them outside of our country who are trying to come in. They're always going to be there. What you need your government to do, what you should expect your government to do, is to stay on top of it and keep you as safe as possible. That's what we try to do every single day. Thank you.
Colin Jackson, Michigan Public Radio Network. We're seeing ICE expanding its presence in Southeast Michigan with developments in, near the airport in Romulus and office spaces in Southfield. And I'm wondering what words you would have to say to community members who may be concerned that this might lead to an increase in aggressive immigration tactics like we've seen in Minnesota or Chicago.
Well, what I'd say is that ICE is a very simple job, and it's not just ICE, it's the entire federal government, law enforcement agencies, the various, three-letter agencies that exist within the federal government. It's to make people safe. And ICE in particular is trying to get violent criminals out of the United States of America. People who have no legal right to be in the United States of America, the best thing they could do is just go home voluntarily. That would be the easiest thing. And I always find it a little bit weird when congressional Democrats or others say, how dare you? And then the thing that they're so offended by is that we're getting illegal aliens, many of them with criminal records, out of our country. How dare we? That's exactly what we should be doing. That's what we promised we would do when the American people elected Donald J. Trump president of the United States, to protect the American people. You heard the last questioner, asking justifiably about how we're keeping people safe. One of the ways that we keep people safe is by making sure bad people are outside of our country rather than inside of our country. And if they're inside of our country, inside of a jail cell, which is where they should be. But on this issue of, they're worried about, I forget how you phrased the question. You said they're worried about aggressive enforcement. We have had ICE and immigration enforcement operating in 50 states in red states and in blue states, and very, very blue cities and very, very red cities without any incident. And the two exceptions, maybe three exceptions, are where? Minneapolis, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Because in those three states, the local political leadership said, do not cooperate with getting violent criminals out of our state or out of our city. Now, I don't understand that. If I'm living in suburban Minneapolis and I find out there's a sex offender, illegal alien living 3 blocks away from me, I'm going to be calling the police and saying, get this person out of my country. But unfortunately, you've had some governors and a couple of mayors who have said they're going to do everything possible to create civil strife by blocking immigration enforcement. What I would ask people in town to do, what I'd ask everybody in these communities to do, is just tell your local leadership that you want them to cooperate with getting bad people out of the United States of America. So long as we've got the cooperation and so long as we're working as a team, the chaos that you see in Minneapolis, it's not going to happen. It only happens when you've got broken and dysfunctional political leadership that tries to stop us from doing our jobs.
Thank you for taking questions, Mr. Vice President. Craig Mauger from the Detroit News newspaper here. There's a lot of concern and talk in Michigan right now ahead of this pivotal midterm election that the federal government might somehow intervene in the administration of the election here in this state. Do you have any promises that you would make that the federal government will not intervene in any way in this election, or what would you tell people in Michigan who are concerned about that?
Well, what do you mean by the federal government intervening in the election? That's the first I've ever heard of it, but maybe I don't understand your question.
I believe the president has talked about nationalizing elections in recent months himself. It's state. Well,
if what you mean by intervening in the election is that we want everybody to have a voter ID before voting in this country, yes, we should be doing that, to be clear. I mean, if by what you mean is, Marco Rubio has like 5 jobs, is the president going to send Marco Rubio to Michigan to be a ballot counter as his 6th title? I don't think so. I haven't talked to the president or Marco about it. But look, there's a lot of scare tactics, and there's a lot of scary language floating around there. The president and I have been working very hard, and we actually got a good vote yesterday in the United States Senate on the Save America Act, which is a very simple piece of legislation that does a number of things. But one of the things it does is actually establish this very simple principle that if you're going to vote in a federal election, you ought to show identification before you do so. I think that's very much common sense. So no, we don't want to intervene in elections, but we certainly want to make elections safe and secure. Number one, because we want to make sure that the will of the voters is actually recognized and respected. But think about this. We've got, I don't know how many people, a lot of people in this room. Let's say for every single person here, an illegal alien shows up and votes in a Michigan election. That isn't just fraudulent, and that isn't just illegal. That steals your right to vote away from you, because then your vote counts for less. If you believe, as I do, that the American people are sovereign in their own country, then you have to believe that their vote should be protected, and the only way to fully protect their vote is to prevent fraudsters from coming and voting in American elections. Okay. And we'll take just one more question.
Hello, Mr. Vice President. Ben Solis, Michigan Advance. Joe Kent resigned from his post over his objection to the war in Iran. He was among those Republicans who was pretty dedicated to Trump's agenda and the MAGA movement. So how does his exit speak to the fracture of that coalition over the war? And what can you say to those who deeply believe in the president's agenda but are really worried about the consequences of what the war in Iran holds?
Well, look, I mean, the president has said this, I've said this, nobody likes war, right? And I guarantee the president of the United States is not interested in getting us, in the kind of long-term quagmires that we've seen in years past. I know the president, I know the way that he thinks about America's national security. That is not a risk with this president at all. What he has also said consistently for 10, 15 years, maybe even longer, is Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and he's willing to take action, diplomatic, ideally, but military action if he has to make sure that that doesn't happen. That's all this is about. We don't want the Iranians to have a nuclear weapon. The president's been clear about this, and that's what led to the president's decision of, about 3 weeks ago. Now, you ask about Joe Kent. Now, I know Joe Kent a little bit. I like Joe Kent. You heard the President of the United States say yesterday that he likes Joe Kent, too. But it's one thing to have a disagreement of opinion. I know the president very well. He welcomes differences of opinion. He likes it when people express their views about what should happen. He listens to everybody. It's one of the great things I like about him is that whether you're the gardener at Mar-a-Lago or whether you're the Secretary of the State, the president cares about what you think about an issue. He recognizes that everybody has smarts and everybody has wisdom. That said, whatever your view is, when the President of the United States makes a decision, it's your job to help make that decision as effective and successful as possible. And so the President said this yesterday, if you are on the team and you can't help implement the decisions of his administration, he has the right to make those decisions, then it's a good thing for you to resign, and I think that's exactly right. It's fine to disagree. But once the president makes a decision, it's up to everybody who serves in his administration to make it as successful as possible. That's how I do my job, and I think that's how everybody in the administration should do their job, too. So let me just say this on a closing note here. You know, we're here in the great state of Michigan. I'll head back to D.C. this evening. But I just want to say that I know that you guys are the people who actually make this country run. You know, when a very formative moment for me, just for a lot of reasons, in part because all of our leaders went completely insane, was the COVID pandemic. And remember how they shut everything down? And I kept thinking to myself that I knew a lot of people who worked in manufacturing. I knew a lot of people who continued to go to work because they didn't have any other choice. And frankly, while the United States of America would do just fine with a few fewer people on Wall Street on Microsoft Excel, America doesn't do fine at all if our manufacturers and the people who build and make things don't show up for work and make sure that America has the stuff that it needs. So one of the ways that we think about our administration, one of the ways that we think about our goal is that we serve you. You fought for us for long enough. We have to fight for you. You've done your job for the United States of America, and you're going to keep on doing it. It's time to have a government that works for you. Now, I mentioned this earlier. For my entire life, the story of my hometown was another factory closed. Another place that provided good jobs to the moms and dads of my friends was going overseas. Another family that faced financial stress because mom or dad lost a job was getting divorced because of the financial pressures created by stupid policies coming out of Washington, D.C. And I just want you to know, I said this the first time I ever spoke as the vice presidential nominee, and I'll repeat it right now, I will never forget where I came from. Part of what we're trying to do, the biggest part of what we're trying to do, is stop the bleeding and reverse it to where factories were closing down for my entire life. Now factories are being built back up. Where engine manufacturers were shutting down shifts, now they're adding shifts. Where people are hiring instead of firing our great American workers. That is what we're trying to do in the Trump administration. In 14 months in, I think that we've got a lot to be proud of and a lot to build on and a lot to keep working at. But I just want you to know, thank you, but I just want you to know that no matter what you see come out of Washington from the crazy radicals, no matter what the media reports on and tells you, the President of the United States sends this message and the Vice President of the United States agrees with it wholeheartedly. You are the beating heart of the United States of America, and the Trump administration will never stop fighting for you every single day. God bless you all, and thank you for having me.
You've been listening to Vice President JD Vance speaking to voters and soon-to-be voters in the state of Michigan. He's in that state talking about the economy. Of course, he addressed a number of other issues, but most importantly, he's there rallying voters in advance of November's midterms. The vice president saying he'll return to Washington, D.C. later on this evening. Meantime, a very busy day in the nation's capital, particularly on the Senate side of the U.S. Capitol. President Trump's choice to replace Kristi Noem as Secretary of Homeland Security, Markwayne Mullin, is on the hot seat right now for his confirmation hearing. Let's listen in.
Around that time, deported tens of those kinds of Iranian nationals back to Iran as part of this secret agreement. I want to tell you about one husband and wife, Christian converts from Islam, who were sentenced in absentia to 9 and 11-year sentences by the Islamic Republic. They fled to the United States seeking asylum, but they were detained by ICE on arrival. The wife was deported. She managed to take refuge in Turkey. The husband, I'll call him Mr. H, is still here, but he's facing deportation despite showing scars from the beating he received by a government gang. I have both of their declarations. I'd like them to be entered in the record. There are Iranian American organizations like the Iranian American Legal Defense Fund that have further information. I have no doubt that you share my outrage about the treatment of this couple and other Iranian nationals who were deported possibly to torture and death in Iran. Will you agree with me and commit that we should stop deporting such people?
Ma'am, sir, I don't know the specifics behind this. I think before I can talk about in hypotheticals, I would need to know what the reasons behind it, but I don't want to deport anybody that's here illegally, or here legally, I mean. And most definitely not individuals that have done everything possible to be a contributor to society. But in these specific cases, I don't know. I'm not familiar with them. I don't know if there's something else in the background that would cause the administration
I'm talking in general about tens of people, as many as 55 on one flight, 15 or so on another, not just this couple. But in principle, we should not be sending Iranian dissidents and asylum seekers back to Iran. Wouldn't you agree?
Sir, we do know that our enemies want to infiltrate us and use our rules and our generosity against us. And so I don't know the specifics of these. I don't know their background. I don't know what the reasons was, but I will be happy to look into it.
Let me ask you about another topic. I'm glad that you committed that there will not be the kind of review that Secretary Noem imposed on contracts above a certain amount uniformly by your office. But I'd like your commitment that you will help us investigate another abuse of authority. Corey Lewandowski apparently was in charge of approving all contracts. One of them was a $220 million contract that was related directly to Kristi Noem's being fired. They bypassed procurement rules to award that contract to a shell company that was created days before to benefit a Republican consulting firm with close ties to Secretary Noem and Mr. Lewandowski. Will you commit to cooperating with our investigation, the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigation, making documents and personnel available to congressional and other investigations into those contracts awarded by Secretary Noem and Mr. Lewandowski?
Senator, I've heard these same reports. I know the IG, Joseph. I don't know him personally. That's why I say Joseph. Some people call him Joe. Is open investigations. We will cooperate with him.
And provide all the documents and records that are necessary for this committee to do its work. That's what I'm asking.
I'll do everything that's required of me by law, but the IG will be doing the investigation, and we'll let the IG, decide what documents he's going to share, and maybe you can bring that up with him.
Well, in fact, Secretary Noem obstructed the investigations underway by the IG In fact, in at least 10 investigations, they were the subject of a letter from the IG. Are you committing to immediately begin restoring the department's working relationship with the IG?
If confirmed, absolutely. I will do everything required of me by law and the policies that you guys give me. There won't be any gray area with me. We want to have a good relationship with the IG. He's got a job to do, and every other agency that's underneath DHS.
And you'll
has a job
cooperate with the committee in providing those.
Sir, I've everything that is required of me to report, and anything that you want the IG to do, that's between you and the IG.
Senator Mullins, I don't think I need to tell you that the American people have been appalled and angered by what they've seen in the excessive use of force. We've had hearings before the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigation that have shown Aliyah Rahman, a woman suffering from traumatic brain injury, yanked from her car in Minneapolis, dragged by her arms, leading both of her shoulders to be torn. Javier Ramirez, a father of 4 from California, detained for 4 days and refused medical treatment for his diabetes. We documented these abuses in a report that we issued and in hearings that we conducted. One of them was Marimar Martinez, who was on her way to donate clothing at a local church when she came across agents in an unmarked car. Agents sideswiped her car. 3 masked agents in camouflage stormed out, and one of them pulled out his gun and fired at her moving vehicle, hitting her 5 times. And the agent then bragged about it. He bragged about it in a text. He said, I have an MOF, I won't detail it. I fired 5 rounds and she had 7 holes. Put that in your book, boys. Shouldn't we be disgusted by an agent that fires at a U.S. citizen, no criminal record? She was charged.
Senator Bloom,
the charges were dismissed. Wouldn't you agree with me that that agent should not be carrying a firearm?
I'm not familiar with the investigation, sir, and I don't know if the investigation is completed. As Secretary, I'm sure I'll be briefed on this.
All right, time's expired. I know these are important issues, but we just have to move on. We're going to finish up with Senator Kim, then we're going to make a statement that hopefully can be agreeable for a meeting later. Senator Kim.
I'll be concise here, Chairman. Senator, there's just a couple last things here. A couple weeks ago, we had a hearing here, and I was engaged with the head of USCIS, and I raised an issue that happened in San Diego of spouses of military members and veterans. They were going in to get interviewed for a green card and were arrested upon their arrival. I just wanted to get your reaction to that. Like, you know, is that the kind of behavior you think is acceptable?
Excuse me, repeat that again.
It was spouses of military service members as well as veterans. Their spouses were going and for the purposes of a green card interview, but were at that point detained and arrested on arrival.
I haven't heard about this. I've heard of different reports, Senator, and if people are going through the process and trying to obtain it legally, because we do have naturalization ceremonies Monday through Friday in this country, everywhere. We're going to continue working with those individuals. I don't know the circumstances. I don't know.
I'll pass you the details, but you know, it's something that we can talk through. But just in general here, I mean, I guess what I'm just trying to get a sense from you is what do you think is appropriate in terms of ICE agents being able to operate? You know, for instance, do you think it is okay for them to operate and arrest people at hospitals?
Sir, I will always support my law enforcement doing their job. I don't know the circumstances. If it's a felony warrant that that the person's at a hospital, then they'll go pick up the felony warrant, just like local law enforcement does the same thing. And so in general, I think you need to be more specific on what you're talking about. But if you're talking about just doing everyday law enforcement, I think there's a better approach.
Senator, I just want to raise, you know, I just hear a lot of this from my own community about concerns of these types of efforts outside, you know, in and around hospitals, schools, churches. These are things that I hope we can engage on. I know you talked about it with one of my colleagues about polling sites, but these are important discussions, and we don't have clarity on what we are expected to see, and it's causing just an enormous amount of concern and challenge within our communities.
Well, Senator, I don't understand what the concern about enforcing immigration at polling places is anyways, because honestly, if you're not a citizen, you shouldn't be voting anyway. So technically, there shouldn't be any illegals at the polling spot. And so, as I've said before, if we're at a polling area, it's because of a specific threat, not for immigration.
Yeah, look, what I will just convey here is it's not just about people who are undocumented. I'm hearing from American citizens that are now feeling like they need to carry their passports around for fear of being stopped on the street. There is a chilling effect that is happening that is wider. I had to give my father-in-law specific instructions in case he was stopped upon re-entry back into the United States. There is real concern out there, and I just wanted to express that to you. Just a couple last quick things here. At the detention facility in New Jersey, a different one called Delaney Hall, I was there right after a gentleman died there, and there was really no documentation, really minimal explanation of his cause of death. There was 32 deaths at detention facilities under ICE control last year, yet the oversight offices at DHS to do this, offices like the Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, the Office of Immigration Detention Oversights, they've been gutted. And I just wanted to ask, do you commit to being able to ensure that there is the proper oversight there internally within DHS, working alongside us in Congress to ensure that people are being kept at the dignified levels that they should according to a law?
Each facility falls underneath different standards of operation that are in statutes. We will operate within those statutes. Everybody deserves to be treated with a dignified hand, and we will follow those procedures that are set for those facilities particularly.
Well, I hope to work with you on that if you're confirmed, because we need to make sure we have that oversight, as we have not been able to see it. And in fact, some of our efforts have been impeded because we have not been able to have visitation at some of these sites. And I hope that that's something you will support us be able to have. One last thing I just wanted to raise. With FEMA, there was a number of employees that sent an open letter titled the Katrina Declaration. This is something that warned about some of the reversals that are being made when it comes to disaster response and recovery. Your predecessor, Secretary Noem, she suspended a number of these FEMA employees. I just wanted to ask, can you commit that if confirmed, you will adhere to whistleblower laws and ensure that these whistleblowers do not face retaliation for their protected disclosure?
So there's already laws in place to protect whistleblowers, and I've said multiple times I'll work within the law and the requirements of me as secretary.
And I hope that means that you will ensure that these whistleblowers do not face unlawful retaliation for what they have done.
It's against the law, as you said, unlawful, sir. I said I'm going to work within the law, and that's unlawful.
Okay. With that, I'll yield back.
Thank you. As I said previously, we've scheduled a vote for tomorrow. I'm committed to that. There are several members on both sides of the aisle that would like a briefing in the SCIF. They have it from 1 to 2. If you're willing to do that, several members would like just to walk over and do it. And I think that makes it much more likely that we have the vote tomorrow.
Sir, I would prefer to have the ranking member, yourself, James, and if you want to bring another Democrat member that's on.
It's all or none. All the members need to be able to hear it directly. The problem up here is too many things are siloed, and it just looks like resistance that you don't want everything to come out. It'd be much more forthcoming if you let any member of the committee and classified staff into it. I think we can get this done this afternoon.
That's fine, as long as it's in a classified setting. As long as what?
Yeah, that's fine. The people classified security on our staff and staff. TSSCI,
yes.
Yeah. All right. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming today. The nominee has filed responses to biographical and financial questionnaires, answered pre-hearing questions submitted by the committee, and had their financial statements reviewed by the Office of Government Ethics. Without objection, this information will be made part of the hearing record, with the exception of the nominee's financial data, which are on file with the committee. Due to the quick turnaround between this hearing and the markup tomorrow, the hearing will remain open until 4 p.m. today, March 18th. This hearing is adjourned.
So So that was the confirmation hearing for Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma. He, of course, is President Trump's picks to replace Kristi Noem at the Department of Homeland Security. He was testifying before the Senate Committee on the Department of Homeland Security. And you just heard there at the very end, a vote on his confirmation is expected tomorrow. It was a pretty contentious hearing at some points. And if you stick around in our news break coming up at the top of the hour, we'll let you hear some of that contention. All right, so we're actually going to continue on it. As I've been saying, a super busy day on the Senate side of the U.S. Capitol. For one, President Trump's choice to replace Kristi Noem as Secretary of Homeland Security, whom you just heard there, Markwayne Mullin, on the hot seat for his confirmation hearing. The Oklahoma senator facing off with Senate colleagues in hopes of winning confirmation and even joining the president's cabinet. Now, based on the opening statements, you may have missed this, before the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs, personal beef likely going to be a hurdle for the senator as he tries to overcome that and become confirmed.
So for you to say, am I a liar, sir? That's not accurate. And I got proof to say that because you have spent millions of dollars in my campaigns against me because we just don't get along. However, sir, that doesn't keep me at all from doing my job. I can have different opinions with everybody in this room, but as Secretary of Homeland, I'll be protecting everybody, including Kentucky, as much as I will my own backyard in Oklahoma.
That interaction, by the way, between Senator Mullin and Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, this after the Kentucky Republican accused Mullin of endorsing a physical attack on him. As I said, a little contentious there, that particular hearing. We'll, of course, continue to monitor it for you, though, throughout the day and continue to update you as we get closer to a confirmation vote. As I mentioned, there's a very busy day there on the Senate side of Capitol Hill as the Intelligence Committee is hosting the nation's top intelligence officials today. That would include Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. The Senate Worldwide Threats hearing is focused on national security threats to the United States. That includes the war in Iran. We'll have more on that at the top of the hour as well. Today's hearing, by the way, comes just a day after Joe Kent, the now former head of the National Counterterrorism Center, resigned.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because you have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
This is Giselle Chaffin. I'm from North Carolina. I'd like to let you know that RAV News is the best news. Number one news. Truth seekers seek to find the truth. It'll set you free.
You seem like you're in high spirits today. You're making jokes about Blake getting beat up and me laughing about it. Blake, I didn't appreciate. You know what I think? Blake would, if I got beat up, Blake would laugh about it.
He's assuming I would lose the fight, and I don't know. I feel like I worked pretty hard to make sure
in this hypothetical, your neighbor's massive. Your neighbor's bigger than Mark Wayne Mullin.
Okay, this is true story. Blake is freakishly strong. I don't know what I don't know why he is, but I think it's because you used to have a little bit more weight on you, Blake, which you've slimmed down. I don't know if it's like remnant strength, but Blake is weirdly strong. What do you bench?
Could you rip?
I think at my best I've done. At my best I've done like 260. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
260. Yeah, with a spotter or no spotter?
No spotter, so I could probably go harder if I had you helping me out. Mark.
Could you rip the Phoenix white pages in half with your bare hands?
Okay. Well, do they still publish the white pages?
No,
Wait, what is that,
right,
Mark?
no,
I'm not familiar with that concept.
Yeah, I know. That was a
Rob
a
and
soft
Parker
to the
Singer
younger.
about to send me a text message saying get back on track here.
I thought you were going to say, what are the white pages?
Yeah, Blake is some
racial thing.
Mark, let's turn our attention to the other big hearing that's happening right now on Capitol Hill, and that's with the intel agencies. I mentioned that I love Tulsi's focus on Islam. I'm very heartened to see that. However, there is, I think, justification for DNI to be involved in things like the Fulton County raid. I thought there was an opportunity for her to articulate that point. We know that foreign actors are trying to meddle in our elections. This is intel the president has had for a long time. To what extent, to what effect, we don't know. But that's exactly why it needs to be investigated. What are you seeing from this hearing so far? What are the big takeaways?
Well, I'm not crazy on Intel and CIA and others being involved in anything domestic. I think the FBI should deal with all of that. I think history shows it leads to potential abuse when you let intelligence agencies play on domestic front. I've not seen all the hearing. I've been watching it on and off and switching back and forth to the Mark Wayne Mullin hearing. I find congressional hearing format with the limited time and a lot of the partisanship to not be that useful. And I think obviously a lot of this stuff is classified. So in all honesty, I didn't hear anything that furthered my understanding of the threats America faces around the world. And again, I just don't think the format's particularly conducive to that.
Fair enough. I tend to agree with you, actually. I'd much rather see, Tulsi Gabbard or Ratcliffe in a long form interview on this show or on John Ryan or whatever. So final point here, and Blake, I think you're going to have some input here. We've had you on to talk about this repeatedly. The strikes in Iran, we want to call it an excursion, a war, whatever your word is for it. There is a political reality. I think everybody will acknowledge that militarily, we've seen some of the advanced excellence of our military. Nobody's contending that, but the political cost is certainly a contributing factor of how long this is going to drag on. What's your read on it right now? How's MAGA staying together? How's the base staying together? Are we shrinking the coalition by doing this? Your read, sir.
Every bit of polling data suggests MAGA is staying together, and Chris LaCivita just tweeted about this. MAGA is very solid for this, and not just because they're blindly loyal to the president. There are no boots on the ground. We're not building schools or firehouses. We're not saying we're going to march to Tehran and displace the government. Donald Trump is not against using force. He's for fast. What MAGA is against, and what a lot of people on the left are against, are losing slowly. What the president's for is winning quickly. Now, how quickly will quickly be? All the political fallout, the midterms, the president's legacy, all these things, they'll all be answered by how this goes. If it ends in the next 6 weeks or less, if it ends with the objectives or most of the objectives being achieved, I think it'll be a net political plus for the president. And if it doesn't, if it goes on longer, if it costs multiple billions, if it does have mission creep, or if the objectives aren't achieved, I think the Republican Party and the president will pay a price, and they should, because the president made this decision on behalf of the party. So all this, I said before, I don't like the conversation about was there sufficient intelligence to go in, because I think there was. I also don't like this discussion about whether the president's breaking his promise. I just don't think he is. I respect those who think he is, but the president is for using decisive force to achieve important and essential objectives. And so far, that's what he appears to be doing.
Well, Mark, what occurs to me is, do you think this is, I think we've had repeated cases of this now where there's sort of Trump himself And then also there's the aura that's built around Trump where they'll emphasize things that aren't necessarily big Trump talking points. The other one that comes to mind, of course, is the Epstein stuff, where people are saying, oh, Trump betrayed us on Epstein. He was promising to really go hard at this. And then when you look at the evidence, it's Trump supporters talk about that a lot. And then Trump gets asked about it in an interview and he's like, we'll look at the Epstein stuff. And he's never bringing it up of his own volition. And I feel like Iran is similar, where Trump supporters, and certainly we among them, have emphasized, he avoided these wars. He was the peace president. He had no new wars in his first term, while Trump himself is going around saying, Iran will never get a nuclear weapon. I'm super tough. I'm ready to use force. Do you think this is kind of a recurring pattern? And is that peculiar to Trump?
I would use the metaphor. No, not necessarily, but I would say the metaphor is Trump's the Wizard of Oz and all these other people are the flying monkeys. And the flying monkeys get a lot of attention. And they say, I speak for the wizard. But Trump, Trump is the king of inconsistency. There are lots of things he's not consistent on. And again, I have great respect for people on the left and the right and others who don't support this. But it is not a violation, as I read and listen to what he said, as you said, not others have said. Trump has been talking about trying to deal with Iran for decades. Other presidents have for decades. He saw the opportunity in alliance with Israel to do it. And he's got, I think, pretty specific objectives. Some are must-haves. Some would be nice to have, like regime change. And I think he's going to achieve as much as he can at as low as cost as possible. And we're not going to be building schools in Tehran. I'm quite confident of that.
Yeah, I think that's well said. You know, Trump is the audible president. Charlie used to say that the unpredictability was the point. Yeah. And so we don't know what he holds in a closed hand and an open hand. What are the must-haves? What are the want-to-haves here? Ultimately, I think Israel's pushing for regime change. I think Trump's willing to deal with this regime if it's a moderate actor. Yeah. We're just not 100% sure. By the way, I want to play. We're running out of time. There's a cut here we have from 1980 of President Trump raging against Iran. 1980. Yeah. What was he, 33 at that point or something? So
I played it on my show. It's a great clip and it illustrates the point. This is not some political gambit. This is not some whim. This is not some Israel, forcing his hand. He's long said, this is important. You guys are too young, but if you're his age or my age, he's older than me, but same idea. What Iran did during the Carter years really was informative for how we perceive this regime. And he's been on it since then. And I think probably wish he dealt with it in the first term.
Mark Halperin, great work as always. Thank you for your honest analysis.
Good to see you both. Stay away from your big burly neighbors.
We will do that. You too. You live in a big old metro with lots of scary people, Mark. So be careful out there.
Thank you, sir.
Hour 2 underway in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because they have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
This is Giselle Chaffin. I'm from North Carolina. I'd like to let you know that RAV News is the best news. Number one news. Truth seekers seek to find the truth. It'll set you free.
When it's breaking, we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer. I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge. Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the RAV hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
News Break. I'm Terrence Bates. President Trump is headed to Dover Air Force Base in Delaware right now for a dignified transfer ceremony. You can see him boarding the flight here. He's getting ready to get on Air Force One and make his way on up. Let's take this full as we watch the president make his way on to Air Force One. The president is going to be there in Dover to honor 6 service members who were killed in that KC-135 refueling aircraft crash that happened in Iraq last week. This is going to be obviously a solemn ceremony. He's going to honor those 6 service members. They were killed, as their refueling aircraft went down. What we do know is that this is the second dignified transfer ceremony the president is attending since the war with Iran has started, and we of course will have coverage here on Real America's Voice throughout the day as that particular event draws closer. And in other news, it's a really busy day for the Senate this morning. President Trump's choice to replace Kristi Noem as Secretary of Homeland Security, Markwayne Mullin, on the hot seat for his confirmation hearing. They just took a break a little while ago. The Oklahoma senator is facing off with his Senate colleagues in hopes of winning confirmation and joining the president's cabinet. Now, based on the opening statements before the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, the personal beef between Markwayne Mullin and Rand Paul became quite apparent.
So for you to say I'm a liar, sir, that's not accurate. And I got proof to say that because you have spent millions of dollars in my campaigns against me because we just don't get along. However, sir, that doesn't keep me at all from doing my job. I can have different opinions with everybody in this room, but as Secretary of Homeland, I'll be protecting everybody, including Kentucky, as much as I will my own backyard in Oklahoma.
That interaction was between Senator Mullin and Senator Paul of Kentucky after the Kentucky Republican accused Mullin of endorsing a physical attack on him. The Senate Intelligence Committee hosting the nation's top intelligence officials today, including Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. Told you it was a busy day for the Senate today. The Senate Worldwide Threats hearing is focused on national security threats to the United States. That, of course, includes the war in Iran. Today's hearing comes just a day after Joe Kent, the now former head of the National Counterterrorism Center, resigned amid protest of the Trump administration's decisions to attack Iran. Kent claims Iran didn't pose an imminent threat to the United States. He also accuses the president of bowing to pressure from Israel in order to enter the war. Director Gabbard setting the record straight this morning, though.
The IC assesses that Iran has previously demonstrated space launch and other technology it could use to begin to develop a militarily viable ICBM before 2035, should Tehran attempt to pursue that capability. However, these assessments will clearly be updated as the full impact of Operation Epic Fury's devastating strikes on Iran's missile production facilities, stockpiles, and launch capabilities is determined.
And in other news out of the Senate, senators are digging in for a marathon debate over the Save America Act. The voter integrity bill would require prospective voters to show proof of citizenship in order to register to vote. The measure also includes provisions for voters to show identification in order to even cast ballots. President Trump calls getting the bill passed his top legislative priority. Senate Majority Leader John Thune bringing the bill to the floor despite an expectation that it's going to fail.
You're going to hear me use the adjective common sense a lot in this debate, Mr. President, because if there's any word that is suitable to describe the measures we're considering, it's that. Mr. President, if there's anything essential to the integrity of elections, it's ensuring that those who are registered to vote are eligible to vote, and that those who show up to vote at polling places are those who they say they are.
President Trump has said that he will not sign any new bills until the act is passed. Senate Majority Leader Thune threatening to keep the measure on the floor through the weekend and potentially even into next week in order to highlight Democratic opposition to the voting reforms that are proposed. Well, that's going to do it for your headlines. As always, we appreciate having you along for the ride. We're going to take a quick break and then get you back to your regularly scheduled programming.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. Hour 2 is underway. We've been planning this conversation now with Rep. Andy Ogles, House Freedom Caucus, Tennessee's 5th Congressional District, a great American, great patriot. I've known about this bill for a little while, and I'm so excited to talk about it with him, and he's joining us now. Congressman, welcome to the Charlie Kirk Show.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me. Thank you for the great work that you're doing and for the entire team for continuing what is an important legacy for the future of America. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. You have unveiled an important bill, I think probably the most consequential immigration bill that I have ever seen. And as somebody that follows this subject closely, sir, I'm very excited to see it. I know it faces an uphill battle, but explain your bill, the Assimilation Act, what it would do and why it's necessary.
Well, and I would argue that this is, quite frankly, one of the most important pieces of conversations, but also pieces of legislation that we will really try to undertake and pass in modern history. So if you go back to 1965, the Hart-Celler Act literally opened the floodgates, this tidal wave of immigration, this occupation that we've seen across America with illegals who are flooding our communities. And so what this does is go back to common sense immigration, simply meaning that if you come here, we get to vet you. We make sure that you actually have a skill, a marketable skill that you can deliver to the American people. So if you come here and you can't work, you can't get a job, then you don't get to come in, because what we've seen is roughly 50 to 60% of the Afghanis that came here are on social welfare. Look at the Somalians that have come here. Almost 80% are on social welfare. They're not coming here to make America great. They're coming here to make themselves greater. And quite frankly, some would say we're a melting pot, but at the end of the day, we have to take care of the American taxpayer first. So look, it ends chain migration. It ends the tidal wave, the flooding. It ends the H-1B visa scam, and we can actually vet people. So if you're a member of a gang, you don't get to come in. It's quite simple, actually.
I love that. So Hart-Celler was a 60s era legislation. Blake knows the history better than most, but it basically set up these things that we've been railing about on this show for years. Even when Charlie was here, chain migration, visa lottery, all of this stuff that makes no sense for the common good of the country. It gets rid of that. Hart-Celler also kind of was it reverted some of the 1920s immigration law, right? That was the quota system. What does your bill do with that?
Yeah, so it really goes back to more, again, common sense approach where we can prioritize whether it's countries, occupations. This is the United States of America. We quite frankly have one of the most liberal immigration policies in the world. All right, think about that for a moment. People rail against us on our immigration policies, yet Mexico and Canada are more strict than we are. And so this takes us back where literally to this idea of it's our borders, we get to decide. So if we need a particular occupation, if it makes sense to have more Europeans here versus folks, quite frankly, from parts of Africa who may want to kill us, we get to make those determinations based off of data. And at the end of the day, this has to be data driven. So again, by stripping away all of the politics, by stripping away all of the nonsense that quite frankly is corrupted, it's abused. So like the H-1B visa scam, that's literally taking jobs away from American workers. So you can have someone who went to college, who got a degree, expecting to have that good paying job to start a family, to buy a home. And then what's happened is cheap labor from overseas is being imported into this country and putting Americans out of jobs. Guess what? It's America first for a reason. That also means American workers first.
Amen.
Yeah, Representative. So obviously get rid of chain migration, get rid of the diversity visa, emphasis on skills. What does your bill do in terms of just the sheer annual number of people coming into the United States? Does it set a cap on it? Does it set a floor on it? What's the number?
So there's a couple of things without getting too much in the weeds. There's lots of different caps in our immigration systems. It brings almost all of those down. It also prevents, when you look at like a lottery system or migration, it prevents any one country from being able to dominate kind of that pipeline of people coming into this country.
You mean India?
Well, quite frankly, we've seen a disproportionate number of folks from India using the H-1B visa program. And again, we should be able to determine who uses those. And quite frankly, so with the bill, like specific to H-1B visas, there's a 200% number in there so that if you're going to use someone by way of the H-1B visa, you're not only paying them market rate, you're paying them twice the market rate so that we know that this is a unique situation and you're not displacing an American worker, because we see that over and over and over again where someone who might otherwise make a job paying $100,000, they're bringing someone from overseas, India, wherever, and they're paying them $60,000 or $70,000. And again, you have Americans, students, kids trying to start their lives, and they can't get a job because our immigration system has become a scam.
So in 1990, with the Immigration Act signed by George H.W. Bush, it took the annual green cards from about 500,000 a year to 1.2 in essence. 1.2 million, which I think is absurd, by the way. In my opinion, the country's full. We're seeing the erasure of our country. We're seeing the fleecing of our social welfare system. Obviously, Minnesota was a big wake-up call.
Yeah.
To Blake's point, does this get us back to 500,000? Is there no cap like that or no floor?
Let me double check, but yes, there's a cap in there, the exact number, because it is quite frankly a complex bill, and it's still a work in progress. But I'm like you. Let's just close it down. I can't get that through Congress, so this gives us a starting place to figure out. All right, I have an idea. My team and we have an idea. We're going to put forward this framework. Then we're going to come to you. We're going to come to other groups that have expertise in certain areas when it comes to immigration policy, and we're going to make this better. We're going to make this stronger, and we're going to make it for the American people, not for other countries that are abusing our immigration system.
Yeah, I mean, the people need to understand that what we've lived through in the United States, let's just say since 1990, is the largest move of humanity in human history. It's the largest. One part of that is that we have more people on planet Earth than we did during these other big migratory waves in ancient history or less ancient history. It is the largest move of humanity into the United States. And that's why we use words like invasion. That's why we use words like occupation. And so I guess the point that, just to underscore here, you're repealing Hart-Celler. It's a full repeal. And 1990 Immigration Act, you're repealing aspects of that. But we're going to lower the number. And I agree. I would go full immigration moratorium. If we could, I'd do a net zero. I agree with you that we cannot get that through Congress right now. That's why I'm championing anybody's voices who was willing to take a stand on that. So thank you. But the truth is, we're probably not going to be able to get this bill through Congress just yet either. What needs to happen? 30 seconds.
I think we're in a unique opportunity, a unique situation. Obviously, the Senate is a challenge, but when you look at the waste, the fraud, the abuse, the data points that we're putting out there, that when you have 50, 60% of Afghans are on social welfare, they're not coming here to work. When you look at the Somalians, the billions of dollars that have been stolen from Americans, and the fact that, again, 70, 80% are on social welfare, people are waking up. And so just like the Save America Act with voting, I think the American people are going to demand that we reform our immigration system.
Rep. Andy Ogles, thank you so much, sir. And thank you for your courage on this issue. And we need brave truth tellers like you pushing this conversation like a drumbeat. It is existential to the country. It simply is. I'm going to tell you guys about Blackout Coffee, blackoutcoffee.com/Charlie, promo code Charlie for 20% off your first order. I like the Morning Reaper. I like it so much, I brought it with me on my travels this week. Morning Reaper is amazing, but they also have Brutal Awakening, 1776 Dark Roast, 2A Medium Roast. They even have instant coffee. They got the pods. They got it all. So go to blackoutcoffee.com/Charlie. Use code Charlie for 20% off your first order. These are great American patriots, not some global company, coffee company, that burns your coffee. No names. The founder of which might have just relocated to a more tax advantageous state. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Charlie, blackoutcoffee.com/Charlie, promo code Charlie for 20% off your first order. We'll be right back.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because we have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
This is Giselle Chapin. I'm from North Carolina. I'd like to let you know that RAV News is the best news. Number one news. Truth seekers seek to find the truth. It'll set you free.
My name is TJ Ash from Carbonville, Utah. Real America's Voice lets me express my conservative views without censorship or edit.
Andy Ogles is a dog with a bone on immigration. We're going to have him back on again soon. I'd love your thoughts on repealing Hart-Celler, the 1964 legislation that completely transformed America's immigration system. And then 1990, the Immigration Act, signed by H.W. Bush with Ted Kennedy, the quote-unquote lion of the Senate, peering over his shoulder, that took our green cards up to 1.2 million. Tell us, what do you want to see happen in our immigration system? Do you want a moratorium? Do you want a net zero moratorium? Do you want to see this bill? Do you think it's smart to get something like this passed because it's maybe more passable? Want to hear your thoughts? freedom@charliekirk.com. We're going to read your emails in just a second. Send us them right now. I'll tell you about Why Refi. Why Refi, the good folks at Why Refi are helping students that are living with a mountain of private student loan debt hanging over their shoulders. If you got suckered in by the college cabal, maybe you didn't even graduate, or you're still got tens of thousands of dollars of private student loan debt that's burdening you. It's a burden on your shoulders that's weighing you down. Contact the folks at Why Refi, YREFY.com. That's the letter Y, refi.com. Call today, 888-YREFI-34. They are good people, great patriots that want to help students that are struggling under a burden of private student loan debt, which totals about $300 billion in this country, which is just insane. 45 billion of that is labeled as distress. So check them out if that's your situation. YRefi.com. Check them out today. All right, I'm going to play some, since we're talking about immigration, let's play a little, some clips from Charlie talking about the subject. Cut 17.
The fight, the future, the energy is going to be on who do we legally let into America. That is the question.
Legally let into the country. Blake, did you write that for him? Because
I can't even remember at this point. But yeah, it's always been important. Like our nation has been so insane on illegal immigration, on open borders, that it is easy to lose sight of the fact that even with a total shutdown of illegal immigration, we still have an insane immigration policy that lets in a huge number of people who are not improving America, who are not adding to the country, who are actively harming it, subtracting with it, causing problems, damaging the country's future. And I'm very glad, Representative Ogles, for those who haven't followed in the news, he had remarks the other day, anti-Islam, faced backlash for it. 20 years ago, he would apologize and go into hiding. He might resign. Instead, he turns around and introduces a bill to repeal Hart-Celler. And as we said in the last segment, this won't pass in the immediate future. We don't have the votes for it, but this is the process that must unfold. We need to build a Republican Party, a conservative movement that has a coherent and sharply more restrictionist view on immigration, that wants to defend American heritage. We didn't even get into it in the last segment, but one of the things about Hart-Celler, when they passed it, Ted Kennedy and others came out and said, this will not change the demographic nature of America. It will keep America as it is, because that is what all the voters of the time wanted. Americans literally have never voted to just transform themselves into this giant globalist project. They have never voted to become post-national. They have never voted to abandon their heritage. And yet what we got is a bill that sneakily did that, and then people come along 30 years later and say, oh, America is just an idea. Americans have never just considered themselves an idea.
No, I totally agree. This whole we're a nation of immigrants. No, we're not. We're a nation of settlers that conquered a land and made it prosperous, made it thrive. I know that the indigenous peoples there was indigenous peoples here before, but honestly, every land has been conquered, and that is a faulty argument. It's a straw man. I want to read some of these emails. Angela says, I live in South Carolina. I really appreciate the interviews you conducted with both Senate candidates for our state. I agreed with both Danz and Lynch on many topics, same. But Mark Lynch is that new politician I believe we need in the Senate. Danz has the political and legal experience, but we need a shakeup, something different. Mark Lynch is not a career politician. That's the whole point of ousting Lindsey Graham. My vote is for Mark Lynch. All right, fair enough. I think that's good. Aaron says, enough Mark Halperin on emphasizing Rand Paul's pride. We have real threats to go after. That was my take. I think Rand Paul is putting personal animus ahead of country. And hey, maybe he's got a point. Maybe it is a character, a legitimate line of inquiry because it strikes at character of Mark Wayne Mullin. But I think a lot of people are going to resonate with Mark Wayne.
We have Patty. She says, we absolutely need a complete moratorium on any immigration unless and until we can vet the ones that are already here and revamp the system. I think more and more people are coming around to that. We've been the dumping ground of Earth long enough.
So riddle me this. How do you properly vet 1.2 million people coming into your country? If you do not have at least 2-to-1 staffing to even just look into their cases, find out about them. I mean, in my opinion, you need 500,000 people to vet that properly. I'm sorry. You need full interviews. You need to see what their life is like. You need to interview family, friends, their employer. Like, you can't properly vet 1.2 million legal immigrants, let alone the illegal situation, the visa overstays. It's impossible.
Well, and that's part of it. And the sad thing is like, there are some people where it would be trivial to vet that they're fine. And like those are the ones we actually throw up every obstacle in the world to letting in. Like, anyone knows that the people who have the hardest time coming to the U.S. are the ones we would most obviously want here. Like, someone who has world-class skills in some particular field. They're the ones who have to jump through every single hoop with their employer, fill all this paperwork out, make sure they don't get whacked by the government. And then the ones who've come in with zero effort for decades on end are the people who have so little to add that, they have very little history. They just walk over the border. They're working here illegally. They're coming here. They're the people who come in as guest workers and then just skip town when they're supposed to come, go back. They're people who come as students and they just overstay the visa and they count on the system never catching them. And that's the system we've gotten used to. There's so many people actively breaking our rules all the time that if we just bothered enforcing them at all, a huge number of problems would go away. It's a lot like crime. We see all this urban decay that happens because we just do not do the basics. You make a huge amount of crime go away when you say you can't jump subway turnstiles, when, if you do graffiti, we're going to put you in jail. If you do, some basic illegal gun possession charge because you're a felon. When you enforce all those things, all the problems go down. And it's the same thing with immigration. If you're getting the people who just super obviously shouldn't be here because they don't have a work permit, because they they skipped a court hearing, and you just grabbed them and kicked them out right away, and you were super efficient about it, so many of our problems would go away.
I totally agree. Well said. Kimberly says, I sent this a couple months ago and don't recall a reply. Is there a way to listen to archived podcasts? We are working on that right now. We've been working on it for a while, actually. So the podcast feed, this has been, a discussion on social media, only puts 100 of the past episodes out. And so once we got far enough along, obviously Charlie's own podcast got sort of timed out and they fell off the feed. It's a data thing. We're working on it right now, coming up with a solution. So you can expect this week for Charlie's episodes to go back all the way back.
The easiest thing, any live stream he ever did is on Rumble. So that's one of the easiest ways to find it.
And it's already there. Yeah, we didn't delete anything. All right, we'll be right back. James O'Keefe joins us. Don't go anywhere.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
When it's breaking, we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink what the RAV hosts drink. Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
Hello, this is Hockey Nut from Weyerhaeuser, Wisconsin. Just saying, tune in to Real America's Voice for the truth.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because we have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
Hi, my name's Paul Foyer. I'm Foyer04 in the Getter Chat. I love rap for all the Getter, all the War Room Posse, and all of you guys. Love y'all. Bye.
20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. At today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth about $165,000. Smart Americans diversify a portion of their savings into precious metals, and that's why you may want to consider buying gold from the folks over at the Birch Gold Group. For thousands of years, gold has been a store of wealth, and today it's a crucial part of any balanced investment strategy. What's even better is that the Birch Gold Group can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. All you have to do to get more information is text the word America to the number 989898 and you'll receive a free information kit on gold. There's no obligation here, just useful information. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of satisfied customers, allow the Birch Gold Group to help you diversify with gold. That truly is peace of mind. Text the word America to the number 989898. Again, text America to the number 989898 today for more information. Terrence Bates here with your Real America's Voice news break. We appreciate you being here with us. President Trump headed to Dover Air Force Base in Delaware right now for another to honor, even more fallen soldiers there in the Middle East. The dignified transfer of 6 U.S. service members who were killed when their KC-135 refueling plane crashed over Iraq is set to happen here in just a little while, and the Commander-in-Chief will be on hand for it. This is the second dignified transfer ceremony the president has presided over or attended since the war with Iran started. That KC-135 flight that went down one that I mentioned, went down over Iraq. The refueling plane, of course, was part of the mission to fight the war in Iran. And this is just one of the latest tragedies of that war. But President Trump, the commander-in-chief, will join families there to welcome their loved ones home following that deadly crash. We'll have more coverage of that throughout the day here on Real America's Voice. For now, though, let's get you back to the Charlie Kirk Show.
Of generations. It's the Charlie Kirk Show.
All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. We're going to be joined by James O'Keefe in just a second. He's got a bombshell out of the state of California that's getting real traction. First, I want to tell you about Hillsdale College, Charlie's favorite college. Charlie took 31 of their online courses. 31. His goal was to get through all of them. One of the courses he took was the Genesis story taught by Hillsdale professor Dr. Justin Jackson. Great professor. It's a real course. It's rigorous. It's challenging. It's free if you have the desire to learn. And so everybody, we want to keep encouraging learning. Charlie often gets a bad rap that he was anti-education. No, he was pro-education. He wanted real learning, rigorous education, not the college cabal stuff. Visit charlieforhillsdale.com to enroll today. Take the Genesis course or take any of their other courses. The Constitution 101 course is amazing, by the way. I'm taking that right now. Gain clarity about humanity and your place in the world. If you want to lead, you got to learn first. Learn deeply, lead boldly, carry it forward. Go to charlieforhillsdale.com. All right, so we have so much to get here. Welcoming to the show is James O'Keefe. Charlie loved James, so it's great to have you back on again, sir. Good to see you.
Great to be with you and on this breaking story in California.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to play a little bit longer clip because there's a lot of info here, and that'll set the table for us here, James. SOT 25.
Petitioner Brenda Brown hands cash money to the homeless person, not only for signing the California ballot initiative, but also as payment for them to register to vote.
Now, because you haven't registered, I need to register you so I can get paid too. I'm paying you guys, I need to get paid.
That is a federal felony, and it didn't just happen once. It happened over and over and over again. We personally witnessed and covertly filmed this happening at least 28 times over the span of our investigation, and that is just in Los Angeles. Many of the homeless have zero understanding of what it is that they're actually signing.
But what is that petition for?
I do not know.
That's amazing, James. Even the homeless people are like have enough sense to say, "What am I signing here?" Tell us, what are we watching in that? And I mean, obviously, I find it to be explosive, but explain it to our audience here.
It's a federal felony for someone to pay someone to register to vote. That's a federal felony. The United States Attorney in California has already responded. They're also paying cash to get them to sign a signature on a California petition. That's a misdemeanor. That's also a crime. Could be a felony in California. So you're watching groups, petitioners, NGOs encouraging people in Los Angeles to sign California ballot petitions to forge signatures and giving cash to get homeless to register to vote. All criminal activity. We received a statement from Governor Gavin Newsom. He said this is illegal. People should be prosecuted. We received a statement from the Secretary of State's office in California, the LADA, and the United States Attorney, and they are taking action on this.
So I've been credibly told, James, that there is no election fraud, that everything's on the up and up. We obviously know that there's much more to this story than the Democrats especially want to admit. This instance, you caught them dead to rights. The significance cannot be, I think, overstated here of that the Secretary of State from California has responded. You have forced a response from Gavin Newsom saying these people should be arrested.
Yes.
Who are these people? Who's behind this, and how widespread do we have any idea how widespread this is?
Well, it's very widespread. It's been happening thousands and thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of times. We captured it over 30 times just in this video. When I say captured, I mean you can actually see the cash money being exchanged to the homeless people in exchange for their signature. You can actually see that on the videotape. That's what makes this so unique, Andrew. This is not circumstantial evidence. It's not we've heard about voter fraud or election fraud. You actually see the crime on video, which makes all the difference in the world. Who's doing it? They're petitioners. They're people who are gathering signatures for a ballot referendum in California. Who's behind them? Well, that's an interesting question. The NGOs of California, the homeless industrial complex, Weingard Centers across the street receives $800 million of government money, $112 million a year from the state on their tax return, is encouraging these people to go do this. So it's a $1 trillion industry, all government funded, and it's a conspiracy, multiple federal felonies. People want arrests. They want accountability. I actually think this story will lead to arrests. And it's not just me. We have a number of other citizen journalists involved in this. We're calling it the Justice League. Today, Kim Higbee just put out a report, caught the same thing on video. Tomorrow, there's going to be another citizen journalist. They're going to release a video every day, each day, until someone is arrested. And you can see behind me in my office here a picture of me and Charlie Kirk, which I hung on the wall. Charlie said, James, just do four or five big stories a year. And this is one of them. I'm very confident this will lead to arrests.
I love that. Yeah, because that's an interesting. Charlie had a good observation there because your output is incredible, James. I mean, you are a workhorse. You have been for years now, dating back well over a decade. And Charlie had great respect for your tirelessness, your doggedness in the pursuit of truth and to expose corruption. And I kind of love that pivot. If you took 4 to 5 huge stories a year like this, I think maybe the impact, you could argue, could even be bigger, right? And so I think that's a really fascinating way to look at it. Charlie was always very smart about these things. And so have you made that pivot kind of officially, James?
Well, we release a story every week. Every week we release a Tuesday, and at 1 p.m. we're doing a new story. What makes this different is we're calling it part of the Justice League. We're actually a collective of citizen journalists all working on the same topic at the same time. So I think it's very important for people to be united. I don't think that the conservatives are united, and I think you would agree with that right now. But we're citizen journalists. I'm an independent journalist, and I think what makes this story different is that we're all focused on the same topic at the same time. So over the next 2 weeks, we're going to be focused on this topic and this topic alone.
Love that.
And I see us doing that about 4 or 5 times a year. People in the American right are very competitive with each other. They're very independent. They're in the media. They're competing against each other, and I think that's the thing that needs to change. People, we need to work together on the same thing, so we can apply pressure on the same exact thing at the same time to get the consequences that people want. What people want is accountability. What people want are arrests. They want public accountability. They want jail. They want indictments. Otherwise, nothing's going to change. I think that things will change. This story is already getting. Gavin Newsom is not attacking me. It's interesting enough, he attacked Nick Shirley yesterday. That went viral. He's not attacking us for this story. He's saying that there's going to be an arrest. I've heard back from the LADA's office, that's the Los Angeles District Attorney. They're saying that they're looking into it, and they did indict people 5 years ago for similar activity. What makes this story so crazy is they're paying people to register to vote. They're paying them cash, which is a federal felony. I talked to Bill Asalia, the United States Attorney in California, and he's on it. And I think that you'll see arrests here soon.
I love that. And by the way, I want to underscore your point that getting rid of this competition, Cam Higbee's great, Nick Shirley's great, Savannah Hernandez is great. I know that you guys are all in communication and coordinating and working on stories together now, and it's amazing. I think it's a huge development. I love to see you leading that charge, James. I think you're one of the few voices that can lead that charge to bring all the different voices together. I want to play one other clip here. You mentioned arrests. This part shocked me when I watched it. Cut 28.
The law enforcement officers sitting nearby on Skid Row every single day don't know the California laws and plead ignorance. It begs the question, what are they even doing? Officer Maravilla of the LAPD dismissed it as a, quote, civil lawsuit.
Do you know a lot of these people here that are making homeless sign petitions and paying cash for it?
I haven't seen them. I mean, I've seen when they signed some type of paperwork, but I didn't know what they were doing. And I saw them at that, right here at the light over here in the back. Yeah. But I didn't know what it was for. Like maybe like 2 weeks ago, I saw them signing for something, but I didn't know if they were getting like money in exchange.
Yeah, I think they're getting like $2-3 from what I observe. Yeah. Is that legal?
I mean, if it's non-profit, I mean, they're signing it. It's a consensual. It's more of a civil thing.
Correct. I don't know what the police officers are actually doing there.
It's infuriating.
I mean, it's so crazy and surreal. I mean, there's another video clip in this 40-minute long video where the NGOs actually pretend to be the police in order to intimidate me. I mean, we're not living in America. I don't know what this even is at this point, but I know what your audience wants. You want arrests and not exposure. You want arrests. So in order to achieve that objective, you have to have exposure. There is no arrests without exposure.
Correct.
And you have to have exposure compounded over and over and over again. Specifically, people say there is no voter fraud. This is cash money on tape given to the homeless person from someone taking advantage of them, telling them who to vote for. And that's a felony, and this is a developing and breaking story, and you're going to see arrests in the next few days.
Amen. Well done, James O'Keefe. How do people get involved with what you're doing? Where do they find you? Give us your coordinates.
Well, I'm involved in a lot of things. My organization is called Citizen Journalism Foundation. We're now tax deductible. OMG, we're OMGO'KeefeMediaGroup.com, and this new initiative is called the Justice League. You're going to see, I know Savannah works with you guys at Turning Point. You're going to see Anthony Rubin, Cam Higbee. You're going to see a number of other citizen journalists coming out in the next few days with similar reports.
I love it. Well done, James. Great to have you back on. We'll touch base again soon as the arrests come down the pike. I'm excited to hear about that and tell our audience about it. Great job.
Thank you.
All right. Blake, there's an email here from Kelsey. It says, I had a dream last night that Andrew was starting to get mad at Blake because he was growing so much hair due to Strong Cell. This is a real email we just got. Strong Cell dreams.
And it was shedding everywhere, and Andrew was upset at how much hair was in his office. We know that's a dream because you don't even have an office here.
I know. I work out of the conference room. Anyways, so here's what you need to do. Go to strongcell.com. Use promo code Charlie for 20% off at checkout. You too could have hair like Blake, but more importantly, you're actually going to have lots of energy, word recall, brain fog, all that stuff. Strongcell.com. Promo code Charlie for 20% off at checkout. 90-day risk-free money-back guarantee. We'll be right back.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shop. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the Rav Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. Lots of news today. We got through a lot. We got through the DNI testimony, Tulsi Gabbard. We also got through Mark Wayne Mullin, James O'Keefe's bombshell reporting, and the potential repeal of Hart-Celler. Let's call that a long shot victory.
A long-term project, not a long shot, a long-term project. We are building what we will see in the future.
I actually really agree with that. I believe that the people are with us. I believe we have popular support, but it yet remains so controversial within Washington, D.C. because moneyed interest. We've got the hospitality industry. We've got the farm agricultural industry. But we had an AI expert, his new book, Code Red, yesterday, and we are staring at a future where so many jobs are going to be wiped off the table. I believe it's going to become absolutely a national security, but maybe even a national security threat, but definitely a domestic, huge, preeminent issue if we have too many people and not enough jobs. There is a massive case to be made that AI is going to wipe the table of so many jobs that we think we need all this labor for. And what are we going to do with the people that we brought in? So that's a huge, huge concern that I'm looking at. If you have seen videos, Blake, maybe you've seen them, these robots that come and pick fruit and pick vegetables faster than migrant laborers can do it when you have hundreds of them out in a field. This is going to happen. Maybe industries like, hospitality, you need somebody to actually come and change the sheets or serve the drinks and the food. Maybe Optimus, I believe that was what it was named by Elon Musk. The robots are going to be able to do some of this work for us in the near future. But we really, genuinely need to get serious about our immigration reform. And I am not going to stop banging the drum. We're going to have Andy Ogles back on again and again and again as this goes through committee, as it gets worked up, as the bill gets refined. This is existential to the future of the country. And candidly, it's one of those domestic issues that we need to focus on more, Blake. I feel that, I think Rich Barris has laid this out pretty clearly, that there is this penchant to look internationally, to look at foreign wars or foreign entanglements, and we need to focus on domestic issues. I think immigration is the 1, 2, and 3 most important domestic issue that we can tackle. Do you agree?
No, I think 100% really. I think the war, if this war goes badly, nations recover from wars. Nations recover from catastrophic wars. Japan had 2 A-bombs dropped on them. Millions of them died in World War II. It doesn't destroy the nation of Japan. They come back from that. They become one of the world's richest countries. Nations can recover from economic crashes. We recover from the Great Depression. Lots of countries have recovered from that sort of thing. What nations don't recover from is no longer being the nation that they are. And so if Britain is no longer a place of British people, if it's no longer the English and the Scots and the Welsh, it's a bunch of Pakistanis and Algerians and anyone else who's moved there, it's not Britain anymore. Like, nations that cease to exist are no longer those nations. And history is littered with countries that stopped to exist because, you could say they lost control of their borders. But what really happened is you get conquered. What is conquest? It's having other people move in and take all of your stuff and take over your things. And it's no different if you voted to do that or if your leaders chose to do that because it would stimulate the economy.
Got an email here from John saying, John Solomon report on China. Yes, I brought that up earlier. That's the reason I felt like Tulsi missed an opportunity. John's reporting confirms this. Maybe we'll have him on the show tomorrow to walk us through it all. But they have had this intel for a while. So Tulsi Gabbard's involvement in our election fraud cases, investigations that are going on in Fulton County and Maricopa County makes all the sense in the world when you realize that foreign countries are, in fact, trying to attack the integrity of our election system. So I'm all for it. I wanted Tulsi to articulate that point. For some reason, she didn't. I'm going to trust her judgment on that. Maybe there's reasons that I'm unaware of. But it is what it is. So, yeah, John, we are aware of John Solomon's reporting on that. Absolutely. Marlene says, hey, guys, I was given to understand that we're forever stuck with Lindsey Graham because South Carolina has open primaries and Dems will make sure he stays on the ballot. Is this still the case? Because we all know Lindsey's vote goes to his highest bidder. Great job you're all doing for Charlie. Thank you. Thank you, Marlene. She's out of Florida. Blake, do you have the details on that? I believe it is an open primary, but I do think that the odds are very high that we're going to get this to a runoff. So, yeah, I mean, I would presume Democrats would probably prefer to have Lindsey Graham in just because he's bad for the brand.
So my understanding is I don't think it's open. I think you need a majority, so it will go to a runoff, which is the primary itself, I think, is June 9th. I think a runoff is 2 or 3 weeks later than that if there's no 50% winner. I think that's kind of nice because it seems that people do have strong preferences between either Lynch or Dans in that primary. And, well, it doesn't hurt as long as you're not voting for Lindsey. The main thing is just making sure, because I know this is so tempting on the right, is you have to make sure we don't decide, don't get embittered. Don't decide you're mad at Dans because Lynch said, he's from a different state, or you're super mad at Lynch because actually Dans was very kind to Lynch, so I don't know what the attacks on him would be, but make sure there's no bad blood out of this race, because I think we're going to agree we want them to come together to get the win here after that goes to a runoff.
I totally agree. Got to unite the clans when this is when they're ready to do so. Paul says, guys, no one has said that we can put a total stop to alien truckers endangering U.S. roads. The subject line says truckers cannot read English, etc. We agree. What they're doing right now, the Department of Transportation is using existing statutes or adjusting them. It's sort of using a technicality, but it's within the statute. So these are levers they can pull now. Paul goes on to say, this is simple. ICE can be at all the stations. I actually think that that's not a bad idea. These weigh stations, these checkpoints, put ICE there. Check their credentials. See if they shouldn't be on the roads. I believe that's a great idea. He says also the state police use portable weighers. They stop trucks wherever. No problemo. Paul, these are great ideas. I'm actually going to clip this and send it over to the Department of Transportation. Great ideas. They're probably already talking about it. Maybe I'll send it to Mark Wayne Mullin too when he does get confirmed. I think the fireworks that we saw with between Rand Paul and Mark Wayne Mullin, I don't think it's going to be consequential. I think Fetterman's going to vote for him at committee level as well. So I think Mark Wayne Mullin's going to get confirmed. The one question that I have for Mark Wayne, he's a friend, is are you going to be rock ribbed? Are we going to stick with all of the above need to be removed? I'm down with a change in branding. I'm down with a change in tone if that gets blue states and sanctuary states to heal. But we got to be very clear that the policies are not changing. Mass deportations are mandatory. Everybody, that wraps us up for today's show. Blake, thank you for holding it down. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
I'm fueled up now. Woo!
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the RAV hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.